Hi, everyone. I'm Steve Stoller.
And I'm Shauna Haley, and this is Inside Plano, where we take you behind the scenes of our city.
We'll introduce you to the faces and places who help make this a great place to live.
And give us lots of reasons to love Plano. Well, welcome to Inside Plano episode 39.
Hi, Shauna, and hello, everybody.
Hello, hello. It's nice to be here. It's March, and I just want to say thank you so much for the sunshine and the warm temperatures, and it's fabulous.
It's amazing how we go from -2 on one day to 80 degrees a week later.
I'll take that kind of swing rather than the
Me too.
opposite. You know, I moved from the cold northern states down here because I didn't want to really experience snow and ice, and you know what happened?
And I'm just the opposite. I moved from warm weather in South Florida to Texas. But I'll tell you, it could be a lot worse.
Absolutely, absolutely.
Fortunately,
Well,
we don't have it that
yeah.
often. And, that was, they call it one of the storms of the century for our area.
Yeah, at one point in time, every single county in Texas was under a winter storm advisory, and I think that might have been the first time in recorded history, so it certainly was an insane moment.
I heard one of the longtime meteorologists say that in more than 40 years of watching the weather, that's the first time he's ever seen that happen, where every single county was under a winter storm watch. So that really was the storm of the century.
Absolutely. Well, hey, we're gonna talk a little more about that winter storm because
Mhm.
that's certainly, for everyone. I don't think there's a single person in Plano that didn't have their lives reset a little bit by the winter storm and the impact. But before we do, how about we circle back to last month's podcast? We talked a lot about the vaccine rollout, and maybe we let people know kind of the status of things because we still are under a pandemic, and
That's right.
we're watching numbers.
Well, of course, during that winter storm, everything stopped on so many different levels, including vaccinations. So for that week that we had those frigid temperatures and snow on the ground, there were no vaccinations given at most of the sites across our area. Now everything is back up and running. And I'll tell you my own personal experience. I was on the Collin County vaccination list. I was number 60,138. And I thought it would take a very long time to get to me, but my number was called actually just before the storm happened. And then there were 3 different delays. But after the storm passed, they reopened the vaccination clinic. I went to Clark Stadium here in Plano. And I'll tell you, it was a very smooth process, highly organized and pretty quick. From the time I entered the line off Spring Creek Parkway to the time I was finished and pulled out, it took about 20 minutes. And most of that, 10 minutes of that time, was waiting in a line where they give you a barcode for you to actually make your appointment for your second dose. So I already have that appointment set up. It's about 3 weeks down the road. And I tell you, it was just a very smooth process. I was very impressed with it.
That's really encouraging to hear. You know, there were hiccups when the vaccine first rolled out. A lot of those were due to lack of supply. So it's exciting to hear that it's speeding up as supply comes online. And to that end, we've actually put it on our vaccine website. So plano.gov/vaccines will get you there, or you can just go to plano.gov and hit vaccines. It's on the search bar. We're actually having vaccines delivered to pharmacy locations, and that's huge. You don't have to necessarily get on a county waiting list. You can get your vaccine at a number of local pharmacies, and I'm talking everything from Walmart to Tom Thumb to CVS. So, and that's just to name a few. We have links to the ones that we know about at this time. They're on our website. You can click and get more information about how the process works. But that arrival of the vaccine, if I recall correctly, that all started right around February 12th, which of course was right around the time that the winter storm hit. And that seems like a very artful transition point, Steve, to talk about the winter storm. I mean, I
That's right.
remember um, that was Valentine's Day weekend. So my husband and I was like, "Ooh, it's going to be cold weather, and I don't want to go out." Um, we did Valentine's Day at home, but I didn't wanna cook, and so I went to a restaurant, brought it home for a Valentine's dinner, and it was already bitterly, bitterly cold on, Saturday night, and then, of course, we had snow that night, and it was like this beautiful winter wonderland, and Sunday seems like just a moment in time in my mind where we were enjoying beautiful pictures of snow, and people were sharing fun photos, and then everything changed. What
Everything
happened, Steve?
changed. That's right, because the temperatures dropped to single digits, and
Yeah.
in some places around North Texas, below zero temperatures, which, is very rare for North Texas. Well, the problem, of course, was that everybody wanted to keep warm. Everyone used their electricity to turn their heat on. The heat's working overtime to try to keep homes warm when the temperatures outside are so cold. And the grid couldn't handle it. They couldn't handle all that power. And of course, we started having major power outages, not only here in our area in Plano, but across Texas. We have a separate grid. The eastern part of the United States is on one grid, the western part's on another, and Texas has its own grid. So, a lot of issues, a lot of people without power, including you.
Yeah.
You didn't have power for how long, Shauna?
For over 48 hours. I'm sure it was longer than that. Now that I'm thinking, I just can't do the math in my head. It went out Monday morning, and we didn't get it back consistently until Thursday morning. So that three days basically. And we later learned we were actually on a roll of sorts, but our space between rolls was anywhere from 8 hours to sometimes 10, sometimes 12 hours, and it would be on anywhere from 30 minutes to an hour and a half. And, just it was not impossible, but it wasn't comfortable at our house. And it was also very, very difficult to work because it is a cascade of sorts. And I know that I'm not saying anything that anyone else who had power out at their house wouldn't agree with. Your power goes out, your internet is down. Everybody then ends up on the cellular network. The cellular network is overloaded, then the cellular network goes down. So it was really Monday was kind of a dark hole of cold and no access to information for a while. So it was a real challenging experience. But in retrospect, Steve, honestly, for me, I feel like it was in some ways good because it gave me a new perspective of thinking through some of the challenges that we were going to face over the week of how do we get really critical information out to our residents if cell phones aren't working reliably in their house. That is really a big problem, and at times I wouldn't even get phone calls on my cell line. And the way my home landline is structured, I needed power for my phone unit to work, so cell was all I had. So anyway, that was a good experience because you and I did a lot of messaging along with the wonderful men and women who work in the communications department. It was a busy week of social media, emergency alerts, newsletters, just trying to reach people where they were because we had what? We had water shortages because, of equipment issues with the cold weather. And the other thing that was happening was that pipes were freezing. Once power went out,
That's
even
right.
if you dripped your taps, you didn't necessarily have a guarantee that your pipes wouldn't freeze depending on how cold your house got. I mean, it was just a bunch of things. So, water crisis, power issues, people turned to natural gas to stay warm in their gas fireplaces. So then we had, uh, strain on the gas supply. It was interesting to go
Yeah,
through.
one of the things that really made me proud and
Mhm.
happy was how the city of Plano responded. We really focused on meeting what the needs of our residents were in real time. So when it got real cold and the power went out, people were inside their homes and it was below freezing inside their homes. So we worked to try and open some warming stations. One of the local churches, Grace Church Plano, had a partnership with the city where people could go there just to get warm for a few
Mhm.
hours, charge their phones, have some power. And then some of the other area churches did operations on their own, not in conjunction with the city. So we had 3 or 4 places where people could go to, 4 places where people
Mhm.
could warm up. Then, as you said, the next phase of it was the burst pipes. People had no water. So we then turned our attention to providing them with water that they needed. We set up distribution points also at Grace Church Plano and then at the Plano Event Center where people could come and get bottled water. Pete, we take so much for granted when
Mhm,
it comes to our daily living in our homes. The power is already there, always there. You
mhm.
flip a light switch, you turn your AC or your heat on. When it's gone and you don't know when it's going to come back, you realize how vital it is to have electricity in your home. And then water. You turn a faucet on, nothing comes out. You can't flush a toilet. You don't have water coming out of the faucet to make coffee. It's just the simple pleasures and conveniences of water and power. When we lose them, our whole lives are turned upside down. And I mean, you can speak to that better than I can, Shauna, because you experienced it. I somehow was fortunate. Our neighborhood never lost power. And thank God we didn't have any broken pipes. But you can talk about what it means to not have power for an extended period of time.
Yeah, I think it's a challenge. Our family is not unique. We have pets. Many, many people in Plano have pets, and that leads to some really hard questions that you ask. How cold can your pets get? How can you protect them? How do you take care of yourselves? A lot of parents with very young children, a lot of senior adults in our community, all of these questions. And then once water is off, our recreation centers that were able to open more quickly, because the city wasn't spared. We had frozen pipes in some of our facilities and had to do facility repairs as quickly as possible to make those accessible. We opened up our recreation centers, waived waived the non-member fee. If you were a resident of Plano and you needed to come take a shower, come take a shower. And I'm not sure. We always record this podcast a couple of days before the first of the month, but as of the recording of this podcast, we still are offering free showers, and people are still taking advantage of that. So it was a really emotional experience for me to see that there was, of course, the city. This is what we're here for, to serve. There were thousands and thousands of broken pipes and thousands of calls for help. Our 911 operators who actually answer the phone for both the Plano not police non-emergency line and 911, they normally, in the 1 week period that we were in the winter storm, they normally answer around 3,000 phone calls. That's just kind of a normal average. They had more than 9,000 calls for help during that period, 3 times the volume. And what a great team. And then you could say, well, a lot of those calls were for things that you would expect, broken pipes. And I remember back in 2010, we had a broken pipe at our house when we had kind of that last freeze, and you just panic seeing water flow out of your house. So, we were, of course, you and I did a video teaching people how to turn their water off. But if you don't have the tool, or you don't have the arm strength, or, for whatever reason, we encouraged people, help your neighbors. But if you can't do it, call for help. Our firefighters were turning off water meters. Public Works was turning off water meters. Our Parks Department retrained their staff and sent them out. It really was astounding to see what people were doing to help one another. Our Parks Department was shoveling sidewalks at the warming centers to make sure that there was access. Clearly, Public Works was out sanding. We don't own snow plows. It really doesn't snow that much here, so it's not something that it's that we have invested in. But they were using backhoes to clear certain parts. So our community, though, stepped up. So that was what the city did. But then we had 4 different faith organizations that said, we have power, we can provide water, we can provide people. And they opened their doors and provided a warm place for people who needed a warm place to stay. And that's,
Shauna,
yeah.
I know we have some programs to help ease some of the financial burdens that people may have experienced because of the storm. Talk about a few of the programs we have to ease that financial strain.
Yeah, well, the most recent one that we announced really relates to that water pipe issue because just the number of broken water pipes. So there are two different things that are available. So the first, we were asked everybody to drip their pipes to prevent them from freezing over, and we know that that caused an increase in water use. So the city has decided to do a 2,000-gallon automatic credit for your water bill. So that'll appear on your March water bill. You don't have to apply for it. You don't have to call and ask about it. You're just going to get a credit for 2,000 gallons. So that's amazing in my mind because I know I dripped my pipes for a week. As well, if you have had a broken water pipe or you've had a water leak at your house caused by the storm, you can apply for a credit of 100% of the residential water that was used caused by that storm. Now, with that one, you do have to apply for it, and you have to make sure that your repair is completely made, because what they're going to do is make sure that it's actually repaired and not leaking. And so they need to do a clean meter read, which just means go and get a read after the leak is fixed so they can make the adjustments. So take photos of the damage, save your receipts, get it fixed. Go to the show notes. You can get the link to apply for that. That's 100% credit. So thank you very much to City Council for approving that, because I think that's a big concern. There's financial impact for homes right now. Well, Steve, you saw a lot of like our restaurants were feeding people for free as well. I mean, it was amazing. Really a lot of community spirit.
Yeah, we see that a lot whenever there's a crisis, and it's always very heartwarming when people come out to help their neighbors, total strangers. It makes you proud to live in a community where people care about one another. And we did see a lot of that. We saw, big donations of water when there was a need for water. But some of the restaurants called the local media and wanted to know, hey, we just made hundreds of meals. Where can we take them? Where is the need? That's the kind of community we have here in Plano.
I think that's what we mean when we call it the Love Plano spirit. Well, we have a very special guest today that's going to really kind of talk to us about, I mean, I mentioned City Council authorized that credit for your water bill. So she's going to be talking about elections. But before she does, I want to just remind everybody, super important, save your receipts from all of the repairs that you're making to your house, whether it's your water pipes or if it's water damage. Save your receipts. It's going to be important. And we have a new website up and running, plano.gov/Plano recovers. We'll put that in the show notes, but plano.gov/Plano recovers. All kinds of financial assistance, whether you are a resident, if you're a business. There are links to FEMA loan applications. There's even a helpful checklist. But at the end of the day, the two most important things you can do to help yourself are take photos and save receipts, because you're going to need it as you walk through this path.
Great advice. Our special guest today is someone who always has a smile on their face and makes all of us happy, our city secretary, Lisa Henderson. Lisa, thank you for joining us on our podcast. Nice to see you.
Good to see you both.
Lisa, we always like to start our interviews with our fellow city employees by asking them to tell us one thing about them that we don't know. And I'll tell you, we've learned some very interesting things about some of our colleagues. So what is it about you that we don't know?
I'm a big old nerd.
You want
I'm
to
so
clarify that a
professional.
little bit? What makes you a nerd?
I love Star Wars, Harry Potter, all things science. I'm just that girl. And one of my best days ever, I got to meet Neil deGrasse Tyson, and I have a picture of it.
Oh, very
He
good.
is awesome. Not many people have a favorite astrophysicist. I do.
I have actually saved a tweet where he tagged the city of Plano, Lisa. One
That's
time.
awesome.
Like, why not, right?
Exactly.
Well, you are, wait, but by the way, which house are you in? Have you sorted yourself into a Harry
Oh,
Potter?
I'm a Hufflepuff.
Okay, so you're a helper by nature, so
Yes.
very good. All right, well, you are also the city secretary, and Steve and I know that doesn't mean that you sit around and take notes in meetings that we have throughout the city, but I don't know that a lot of people actually know what a city secretary does. So would you mind telling us a little bit about that?
Sure. Yeah, I had that same situation when I first became a city secretary. I was at a family function, and one of my family members said, "Oh, you type and stuff." And I'm like, "Yes, I do type, but there's a lot of other stuff." A lot of what I do is law. It's set by state law and our code of ordinances and charter, and it's kind of like the Secretary of State or county clerk, but on a municipal level. So I do those same types of duties.
Lisa, talk to us a little bit about elections. What exactly is your responsibility as city secretary when it comes to our local elections that we have in Plano?
Locally, I am basically the elections administrator for the city. So it's one of my favorite parts of the job. You know, getting people out there to vote is awesome, and helping people become candidates is great too. I make sure that we comply with all the legal requirements. And in the past, it used to be when you go to vote, and you probably remember this, you'd have to go to the school to vote for your school board members. You'd go to City Hall to vote for your council members, and you were going to all these different places to vote. Well, laws like HAVA, Helping Americans Act Vote, or Vote Act, make it make us have elections jointly when we can, and so we do that. And we contract with the counties, Collin and Denton counties, and then we have joint elections, so you can go and vote at one location and take care of all your voting for all the things that you're eligible to vote for.
Well, you know, it's a little harder for folks to keep on top of local elections because it's not like a national election where you see ads on TV all the time for months and months and months. So,
Exactly.
when is our next local election and what kinds of things are going to be on the ballot?
Our next local election is May 1st of this year, and the city will be electing 5 council members. We had one to resign to run for mayor. So it's 4 actual members of council, and the mayor will be on the ballot. And then also, voters have the right to approve or deny 6 different bond propositions.
Lisa, last month we talked to Melissa Peachy about Plano TV and the role that Plano TV plays in broadcasting our council meetings. Some of those agendas can be very specific and to many people, very confusing. Lisa, please help us understand and translate a council meeting agenda.
Okay. Navigating the agenda can be a little bit daunting when you aren't familiar with it or don't deal with it regularly. City's required to give at least 72 hours advance notice of all meetings, and it must include the date, the time, and the location of the meeting, and all the items that are going to be discussed. And all meetings are open to the public.
Now, Lisa, I'm just going to ask a quick follow-up that when you say it's posted, we post that where if somebody wants to see a meeting?
It's physically posted at the municipal center, and then it's also posted on our website on the agenda page.
Okay, so people can download, the
They
full.
can download the agenda and find all the information that they need. And once they get into the agenda, they can even go further in. If they see a topic that's of interest to them, they can click on that agenda item, and it will bring them to the backup detail for that agenda item, and they can get all the detail they need.
Lisa, in looking at the agenda, there's 3 different meetings that we see on there commonly. We see the executive session, the POM, which stands for the preliminary open meeting, and then the regular meeting. What is the difference between these 3 meetings?
Okay, well, the executive session is the opportunity for the council to meet in a closed session to talk about certain things. And by law, it's a very minimal amount of things that they can talk about in there. So it's like legal advice, real estate matters, certain personnel matters. It just gives them an opportunity to talk privately and get that information outside of the open meeting. Then we move typically into the preliminary open meeting, which is kind of a work session-y type meeting where council receives reports from staff, outside agencies we work with, like North Texas Municipal Water District was just here at the last meeting. DART gives reports. And then they also talk about things to put on future agendas as well. And then the regular meeting is the business meeting. They will go through if there's any kind of proclamations or anything that they want to present to citizens or organizations. They do that. Then it's followed by public comments. So citizens can come in and speak on items that are not on the agenda if they just have an opinion about something or if they've heard about something that they feel like they need to share. Then we have the consent agenda, and that is approval of all of the routine items like approval of minutes, bids, contracts, just stuff that's non-controversial, that's pretty easy and ready to go. And then we get to the individual consideration items, which are your public hearings for planning and zoning or budget public hearings, anything that needs to have a lot of public interaction or a lot of information provided to council so they can effectively make a great decision.
So 2 questions related to that. First,
Mhm.
items for individual consideration, public can provide comment on those typically as well?
Yes, the public can provide comment on any agenda item. Recent legislation changed it from just public hearing items to any agenda item. So if a citizen wants to speak on one, they just have to register in advance and we can make sure that they have that opportunity to speak.
So, but
Lisa,
I was gonna say the difference is though, comments of public interest, it just can't be something that's on the agenda.
Correct. That's items of interest or concern and not on the current agenda is what we always read before we do those things. And the council cannot act on those items that evening. So if someone comes in and they talk about something like a intersection that needs a stop sign or something like that, the council can choose to put it on a future agenda or direct staff to contact that individual and do more research, but they can't take action that night.
Lisa, if our residents want to provide feedback regarding, say, an agenda item to council members, do they have to attend the meeting to do that?
No, they don't. They're always more than welcome, and we love to have citizens attending our meeting. I think citizen participation is the best thing that you can do to be involved in your community. But they can register. Right now, they can attend meetings via Zoom, or they can watch them on Facebook or on Plano TV. But if they attend via Zoom, when they register, they can register to speak, or they can just register an opinion. And if they choose not to attend via Zoom, they can still call my office and register an opinion with us, and we get that information to the council members, or they can email council comments at plano.gov and provide comments on anything on the agenda.
So before we kind of close here, I hear this question a lot, and until this year, which has felt crazier than last year, it doesn't seem possible. I would live tweet the meetings and try to translate what was happening for people, just because it's a very different language. I hear questions from residents a lot, particularly about those 3 different types of meetings. The executive session, the preliminary open, the regular meeting. Council actually makes decisions and votes where?
The majority of the time, it's in the regular meeting. That's their business meeting. In the preliminary open meeting, they'll make decisions and vote on board appointments or give direction to move something forward for staff to bring an ordinance back. I believe we also have approved an extension of the city's manager's authority during the COVID health crisis during a preliminary open meeting as well.
Okay.
Well, Lisa, before we let you go, any final thoughts for our listeners?
Just be involved. Register to speak if you have a strong feeling about something or are passionate about something. Make sure your voice is heard and vote. The best way you can become involved is voting in your local and municipal elections. They are the people that impact you most on a daily basis. And make sure you're registered to vote. Last day to register to vote is April 1st. You can go to the Collin County or Denton County elections websites to see if you're registered, or at votetexas.gov. And early voting starts April 19th through the 27th. And everything that you need is available on our elections page. as well as the agenda page if you want to contact us about speaking at a meeting.
Great information. Lisa, thank you so much. You do an excellent job, and we're really proud to have you as part of Team Plano. Thank you for joining us on Inside Plano.
Thank you for having me.
Bye, Lisa.
Bye-bye.
Well, I always love talking to Lisa. She's one of my favorite people.
I very rarely do you see Lisa without a smile on her face. Very
That's
positive person, always.
absolutely. And very detailed, which is helpful in the job that she has. Well, Steve, we talked a lot about water as we were talking about the winter storm. We've kind of done a different program today. We haven't talked about a lot of events, but Live Green in Plano is doing a very timely workshop on Fix a Leak. It is Saturday, March 20th. Because of the winter storm, they're going to cover a lot of topics that we all need to know and keep in mind, like where is that water meter, how to find it, how to shut off the water. And then as well, they'll be talking about how to detect leaks in your house and how to fix it. We're going to have the registration link in the show notes. It's an online registration, and it'll be a great program.
Shauna, I know how much you and I love food.
Yes.
And I think you're really going to like what Visit Plano is offering. It's a lot of fun too. It's called the Taste of Plano Foodie Pass. It showcases more than 65 Plano eateries. All you have to go is to the landing page at visitplano.com/Taste of Plano to register, and you get a passport link to use on your phone. Once you've registered, you then get a list of participating restaurants to see their menus, as well as special offers to redeem when you order. Plus, if you check with your mobile phone using the passport link when you arrive, you'll get a free Taste of Plano Foodie t-shirt after 25 check-ins. Details are online. What a great way to visit 65 different restaurants in Plano.
Full confession for those who are watching the video version, I already have it on my phone. I haven't checked in. I downloaded it because I was really curious. And there's some good special offers if you actually download it. So it's worth doing.
Well, we're
I'm
going to
very
have to share
excited.
notes because I know that we go to a lot of places often that the other person hasn't gone to. And it's kind of fun to compare notes and check out a new place you've never been to.
Absolutely. And we have some new good restaurants that have opened in Plano. And so I can't wait to go explore them.
Great.
Well, Plano, that's it for another Inside Plano. We are eagerly looking forward to the day that we can talk about things other than COVID and broken water pipes. But in the meantime, if you have a topic you want us to cover, please let us know. You can leave us a rating or a review. Helps people find this little podcast. And you can send us an email at askplano@plano.gov. Till next time, talk to you all later. Bye.
Bye, everybody. And that's it for our Inside Plano. We hope you enjoyed it as much as we did doing it.
If you have any comments or suggestions, send them to us at askplano@plano.gov. Bye.
Talk to you next month. The Inside Plano podcast is brought to you by the City of Plano.